Yo, what's up legends? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Finally, yes, it's been a while. I did have a conversation with my patrons, especially in the Discord as well. I was having a hard time keeping up with everything. YouTube, Patreon stuff, making sample packs, giving people feedback all day, every day, doing Zoom sessions, trying to make music for myself. As of right now, I only have one track signed at this point, so I'm really going through the past few months where I'm trying to make as much music for the upcoming year. Obviously, the way I work is in blocks. You know, I like to make lots of music, sign it, then put a lot of effort into the other parts of my business pretty much, which is all this kind of stuff, trying to help you guys become better producers. So the YouTube videos might not always be every single week. I apologize for that, but sometimes I don't want to overdo it. Like, there's only so much you can teach, right? So I want to do track walkthroughs whenever I have a new release, of course, but if you ever have specific short videos you want me to do, I can easily do them as well. This track is my latest release on Rave Culture with Darren Styles and DD. This one started, as you can see, as my idea. So I came up with this idea just over a year ago, actually, year and a half almost. And it was just as I was announcing my first show back, where I played in Digital Newcastle with Ben Nicky, and I wanted some new material basically. So I started making bootlegs again, and this one is a track that I've loved forever, right? literally I've liked this song ever since I heard it when I was like a lot younger. I'm really into the Eurodance and trance stuff. As you can probably tell from, you know, a lot of my releases, Ecuador, I've done remixes of Castles in the Sky back in the days. You know, I've done everything because that's what I really like. So I love getting those tracks in my live sets. Forever is one that I just couldn't really play, right? And I couldn't really find any good versions of it. So I thought, right, I'm going to make a version. And I came up with this first version, showed it to W&W. They were like, yeah, this is really, really cool. And then I kind of got stuck with it. So I thought, right, I want to get a massive name on this track to help me round it off, help me finish it off, because, you know, I had the label, was interested in it. I'd done most of the idea, so I thought I'm going to pitch it to Darren. Massive fan of Darren's stuff as well. If you're from the UK, you know just how amazing he is, how consistent he is. Even from back in the days, he's just consistently made amazing music. So I pitched it to him, and he said, yeah, he used to love the old song, the original Forever, and he was like, yeah, send me the parts, and he just basically polished it up to a Darren Styles quality track. He killed all those little edits he does. It just sounds amazing. So you will hear my horrible first project. No, it's not too bad. You will hear small differences in the final project, but I can show you pretty much how I came up with the idea. So this is pretty much the bootleg that I wanted to make. I wanted to make intro, drop, heavy drop, really, really hard drop. And then I wanted to follow the structure of the original, which is quite drawn out, more of a Spotify friendly break. I mean, that's why in the radio edit we started like initially with the vocals. In the extended one, you get this drop, which absolutely bangs. When I played this for the first time, I was like, damn, yeah, it has crazy energy. But yeah, anyway, with the track, we finished the track together. Obviously, we had the blessing from DD's team. Respect to DD, so professional, and all of her team around that were just really into the idea and just super open. The track is actually 20 this year, I think, as well, which made it just even more special. And yeah, it's doing really well. I respect everyone for allowing me to try these different tempo changes. You know, 155 is pretty big. I don't know if I've ever released. Yeah, I mean, I've released a 161 with Mike Riveri. But an actual production that was like, you know, came from my idea, I think it's probably the first one. So let's jump into it. Let's jump into the very first drop. I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the whole song though, just in case you haven't heard it. But I mean, if you haven't heard it, why are you here? It's beautiful, man. This is probably one of my most favorite ever productions, and I don't think it took too long. Do I want to really look at the project info? 14 hours. 14 hours is pretty much what I'm doing nowadays, I would say. I used to make tracks in 5-6 hours, but now it's got to the point where I'm trying to push the boundaries so much with sound design, keeping up with the top guys. You know, it takes me a little bit longer, but this one was I don't think it was too much of a headache, to be honest. I know Darren put like quite a few hours in as well, so it's a beautiful song, if I don't mind saying so myself. We'll get into the first drop though. Pretty simple, right? All we need in this drop is a lot of sub and that really cool Psy rhythm. Now the Psy rhythm is probably one you're going to look for the most. I'm going to try and put in, because this is from another project basically. I made this from another project, bounced it over. Whenever I want to have 6 side bass, what I do is I make it in that project and bounce it straight out, dragging it into a new project. So I will try and show you that project to show how, but it's just 4 different samples, right? You'll hear quite a few samples in here. Predominantly, you've got that really high percussion sound, but we will try and look into that in a bit. This is crazy. The energy is really, really good on this. The way it came from the project was this. That's what I did to it. So from the project, it was quite soft and quite subtle. What I've done is added a Camel Crusher, a Fab Filter Satin, just really boosting the mids and the highs there, like really, really saturating the sound. A little bit of a lift. It's such a cute little EQ. And again, focusing quite high on the high mids this time. Not necessarily on the mids, as I would usually with certain Psy sounds. We've got Transient Master, which is super important. This lifts it up and gives it a lot more transient and just makes it punch. Like, this sound is very transient heavy, so me exaggerating that just makes it even more powerful. And then we've got an extra sidechain. Now, without the sidechain, I think it could probably work, but I wanted it to be even tighter. Nexus. Just makes it a little bit more tight, and I just like the way it sounded. And I have a question for you guys, actually. Nexus, I have nothing but headaches with Nexus 4. Literally every preset I use, it will crash, and I'll have to load the project over and over again nowadays. So if you guys have had that problem or know how to fix it, please let me know, because man, it's a headache. The sound goes like this and just elongates and plays forever and ever until you stop it, and sometimes it crashes the project. But anyway, back to the action. So we have this side bass now. Next, we need a big kick. And the sub was going to be an easy thing for me, but getting the big kick was quite a hard thing, because the kick's really important. So I found this side kick, and I don't think you can get this kick anymore on Splice. But it was a Splice kick, and it had everything I wanted. I tried lots of UK hardcore kicks, but they didn't really have that like punch, because obviously as a big room producer, I want that punchiness. Whereas in traditional UK hardcore kicks, it's more about the body and it's less about that real top click. So this one worked. I also added my top kick, my signature top kick, which I use in every single track. We have this top drum layer as well. Love this one. It adds a little bit of a transient in the stereo field, which is kind of strange when you think about a kick, but what it does is gives the kick depth and it makes it feel wider, right? So that's what I used. See, as you can see, that's the old acapella that I ripped online. I don't know if I actually used that though. Anyway, we have those 3 kicks, and I think that's it on the kick front. Works really well with the side. What's important is you want the side kick to stand out above this side bass, because the side bass is so high heavy, basically high heavy sound wise. Like, it's really, if your kick's flat, it's going to make it sound even flatter, right? So you want this kick to be lifted above, because this is such a high, or it would sound like there's loads of kicks, like da-da-da, you know. So we have this big sub kick. This is a big room sub kick from my brother Kevu. Shout out to him. This is how the kick sounded like without any processing. Not crazy for what I needed. I needed a really big, thick, and deep sub. So what I did was step by step. Let's just turn everything off, and we'll go through one by one. Obviously, the sidechain allowed it to just sit nicely as an offbeat bass. I like to use my sub basses with a side trance pattern to be an offbeat, as opposed to just boom boom. I like it to be boom boom because it adds rhythm. A side rhythm is really rhythmic, like da 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 da, like a horse galloping, right? So I wanted that boom boom, quite a smooth sub bass in there. So the sidechain's good. We need stereo imager because we want to make it mono. An EQ, this does a lot actually. Look how it just cleans the sound up and also boosts the low end. We're getting rid of all of that high and mid layer that we just do not want because we've got a side trance bass to sit on top. And what it does is puts a lot more emphasis on the sub. Beautiful. Another EQ at the end. Just doing a small lift, but that did everything that I needed for this sound. That on its own sounds like a drop, right? But we also wanted to add some little fancy stuff. That's just for the tops, really, just to emphasize the tops. Now, Darren added some more layers. This is kind of his sound. This 160, 155 side thing. So he's a genius at this, and he added his own sounds on top of that, which just made it sound crazy in the end. But so far, you know, this is what I wanted. This is how I saw the first drop. Yeah, so the Nexus lead from the second drop, the main drop, I took one shot from it because I wanted it to hit straight away. So what I've done is I've added that. Don't know if you can hear it though. Yeah. We also have this one. Don't say I've got two. So it wasn't loud enough. So what I did is I duplicated the pattern. I had the pattern in twice. Rookie mistake. But it seemed to work. I also had this synth shot, which added a lot of transient and also a nice little tail there as well. But that's a really good energy enhancer, I would say, in the start of the drop. So then we come to the fill. With a drop like this, it's very simple and can be very repetitive. So I wanted to do something cool in the fill. A cool little reverse sound, some hardstyle stuff, and a donk that I sampled from Darren himself. And that's a fill that you would think would just be dragged straight out of the pack, right? I love to use different sounds and distort them and change them in different ways, EQ them in different ways, just to make something that... This is hard to copy, right? I mean, you're going to copy it now when I give you the sample pack, for example. But no, like, this is hard to replicate, but actually, when you have the right sounds, you can make some really crazy stuff with just layering and stuff like that, and combining sounds together. We've got some big room toms, because that's my roots. I'm not going to abandon my roots, you know. I want to have some big room in there. I wanted it to be like a UK hardcore big room combination. So we've got the hardcore kind of clap snares in there. Yeah, that sounds really, really cool with the side. It just works like hand in hand. Then we come to the fill. Quite an easy fill. We've got a big impact. And we have the synth from the hook. I want to get that synth in straight away. I want people to know that that synth is going to come in later in the song. Some sounds there. Didn't use those for whatever reason. But yeah, it's just mostly synths. I mean, when you've got an iconic melody from a classic song, I love to use it in the fills because that's all you need sometimes, just to tease that. For example, Insomnia. Imagine you're doing an Insomnia bootleg. That would just send the crowd crazy because they know that that's going to come later on in the song. You know, that's the way I was kind of thinking. We have Alea playing the top melody from later on in the track. And all I did with this, I just opened up the filter. I didn't want to just play it stagnantly. I opened up the filter, the cutoff on the filter, and it just created a little bit of movement in the track. What else do we have? Yeah, so this is something I'll probably talk about later on, this screech, because we use it in the final drop, the third drop, which is actually probably my favorite. This one and the last one is just, yeah, nasty. I love playing those live. But yeah, nothing else really changes. We've got a hardstyle kick layer, which damn, that's a lot of EQs. Let's see. Yeah. The thing is, it was quite hard to get this to fit with the side bass. That's why I've got lots of EQs. It will have been a slow process. Let's go one by one and see how crazy my EQs are. Because I've done some pretty weird EQs in the past. That one's just literally doing nothing. That's a big mid boost, high mids. Still doesn't really fit. And that final EQ is the one that just makes it gel, and that's because I dipped a lot of the high end. I think what's important when you're using sounds like this, and to get that top quality, top level sound, it's about knowing what your specific sound should be doing. Like, the way this sound was, that's just going to lead to a messy mix, right? But what I identified was this would be good as like a mid reverse bass. So focus on the mids as opposed to focus on the highs. And it just made the whole side section more full, and it also added a little bit of rhythm. So as long as you can identify with your sounds, okay, this should be, and the way to do that is reference other people's tracks. Try to really pick apart someone's song, be like, oh, he uses the reverse bass in this way, as opposed to just focusing on the highs, right? So that's kind of how I did it, you know, looking at guys like Darren and just really analyzing their tracks. And that's how I picked up what to use certain sounds for. And eventually, the more experience you get, the easier it will be, trust me. We have a hi-hat as well, which I've added a little cute delay there. Just helps fill the gap, fill the space, and just makes it a little bit more energetic because you're filling the space with more content. And that is pretty much it. Drop one is done and dusted. We go into the breakdown. Now this is me trying to emulate the original. The original had this really cool sound, but I just could not get it right. So I just settled for something that, my own version of that, you know what I mean? So we start with this sound, which I decided, okay, this is going to carry our sub. Then we have this nicer, more round sound, which is more like the original. I want you to go and check the original track, DD Forever, and just see like what kind of stuff, where I was thinking when I've selected these sounds. The Serum sound is a donk sound. Bass number 4 from my bro Sound Factory, and the Nexus one, it's the emulator lo-fi and classic dance. You know, it's a classic dance remix, so I went to look for a lot of those sounds. But that one just, yeah, that one's just for the sub really. So we have that. We have a filtered out kick like the original. And that's where the vocal comes in. As you can see, I've got the old ripped versions, then I've got the beautiful correct real versions.
I'm all alone in bed, and I can't sleep, I'm feeling blue.
As you can see in the original, in the final version, Darren actually put some cool vocal effects in there, things that I kind of overlooked, but he's kind of opened my eyes to be like, okay, with working with vocals, what extra stuff do I need to do? Got this huge like texture sound. Natural ambience, some rain.
I'm all alone in bed, and I can't sleep.
It's good. It's cool thinking about like the vocals. You know, I'm alone in bed, blah blah blah, and I've got this rain as if it's outside. I like doing this kind of this extra stuff, over the top stuff. Just adds a little bit more depth to your productions.
I'm all alone in bed, and I can't sleep. I'm feeling blue.
So as you can see, I'm teasing up this airwave pad, a trance pad. And really, that's all you need. You know, you've got the chords playing in there. We've got a kick, which drives the bass and the rhythm. It keeps the energy high. And we've got the main vocal. With a vocal track, you don't really need to go over the top. With a big room track with no vocals in it, you need to go crazy in the breakdown with all this atmospheric stuff, screeches, all that kind of thing. But with this, it was quite simple.
I'm all alone in bed.
Then we have the wob from Disco. This is my Disco wobble, which I use a lot as well. Which, if you're on my Patreon, you will have this sound somewhere, so go check it. But this one is it works really well in there, just for a little bit more sound design, level up the sound design a bit.
I'm all alone. I try to close my eyes, but all I'm thinking of is you. Baby, only you. I cry my eyes out, baby, wondering what
Nexus, good old Nexus. So in this section, what we're going to do is take up the energy. We're going to add some drums. And we're also going to tease the lead melody, because the lead melody comes in the climax section. So basically, it's a lot of that. You know, we're building up, the vocal continues to tell the story. Then we have a mini breakdown. Now in the original track, this mini breakdown, there is a drop. It's not really a drop, the kick just comes in, the chorus plays. With our track, this is a club festival track, right? We can't really do that. It has to be structured a certain way to give that right impact when you play it live. So instead of going into a drop there, we just started to tease the melody even more.
I promise to be there forever.
Then we get to the pre-drop, the climax, the pre-climax. This is super important. Getting this right can make your climax section be even bigger. Doing just a gap and then the synth comes just is lazy, right? So what did I do? We have this downlifter. Impacts. So that kind of sets the tone with the effects. We have a sweep going up. That texture carries on. You notice everything is cut with that last bar because I wanted a bar of complete silence, just to make that impact of that even better as well. And we have the lead, which does quite a lot of things. So first off, I turned off the sidechain. So after turning off the sidechain, I made the volume, just a volume automation, so I could cut it dead. I wanted all the reverb and everything to be gone in that last section. I've got a filter. The end of smile counteracting the filter. Much better. Much more like atmospheric. We have stereo separation, making it more mono. An EQ automation as well. I think just removing the low end as we get closer and closer towards the climax, and this panning as well. Cool thing about that is I'm panning it, but also making it more mono, so it's going to gradually become more and more tight, and that was pretty much what I wanted to do. We've got the choir there as well, and it makes a really good pre-drop. Okay, so the laptop actually collapsed there. The laptop is starting to have a lot more problems nowadays. I think it's time to upgrade. Basically, it just crashed completely. OBS wasn't working. I think it's working now. Fingers crossed. So we make our way into the climax section. There you go. It's the lead from the original, the same chords and everything. It's a really energetic melody. The chords that we change is just 1 2 1 2, but it carries that emotion, that trance feel. And this section we'll talk about those leads in the drop, because I used those leads in the drop. I basically just copy and pasted them over into the break section. Got some claps there, you know, crowd noise, just the standard EDM stuff. Then we get into the build up. Standard stuff, rises. We're going to tease the melody itself, and we've got some snares. And I also added a kick underneath, which just gave the snares even more body. Now with the kick, it's important to make an automation in Pro Q3 and just gradually remove the lows of the kick so that it kind of disappears into thin air. Just makes the transition smoother. If you've got the kicks going at full power the whole way through, your drop kick is going to hit with a little bit less of an impact. So you want to get rid of it, and then all the power and the lows come back. So it's pretty simple. I don't think we need to really deep dive into this. The pre-drop's quite important, of course, in any drop, in any track, in EDM. So the pre-drop actually came from my Amsterdam track. I made that pre-drop sound ages ago. Again, lots of you patrons will have this sound. Put it with a big snare. Obviously a nice impact, because that again just helps with the transition. And then we have the vocal itself. As you can see, I've automated the vocal because I want that tail to just carry on. I don't want it to just go forever and then just go, right? I wanted it to tail off into the drop so it was smooth. And then we come into the drop. Please pray to the Nexus gods that this works. Almost. So because it could blow up at any point, I'm going to go through the leads first. So we're going to start with the Nexus sounds, because I don't trust them to come back on if I turn them off. So the two Nexus sounds we have, as you can see, the loudest sound in this layer, I believe. Oh no, the Nexus, the June one is louder, but this one is the main sound, I believe. Red light. So that's the sound you hear the most when this drop plays, right? It's a really cool big room sound. The next sound is just to back it up. Which is a severely distorted drop square. We have some silent layers as well.